Hi everybody, I'm Pia from Stitches and Scraps. Today I'm going to show you how to do this squishy three-dimensional shell stitch used in the Mardava Cowl and Hat patterns. You can get the links to those patterns in the description on this video if you're watching this on YouTube, or in the blog post if you're watching this directly on my blog. In both patterns, the stitches worked in turned rounds, which are just rounds where you turn at the end of each round, but you're still joining to make the round. You can also work this in rows. You may want to add an edge stitch, and I'll talk more about that later. So let's get started on working this in the round. I started from a base of 1 round of single crochet, 1 round of half double crochet, and a multiple of 3 stitches for the pattern. I went ahead and joined a new color when I joined that round so that you can really see the difference between the shell stitches and the base that it's worked on. But I'm going to carry this yarn up in case I want to use it again later. We're going to be doing 5 front post double crochets for each shell, but for the very first shell we're going to chain 3 and count that as a double crochet. So carrying this yarn up in case I need it later, I'm just going to put it over my hook and do my chain, my first chain, and then I'll do my second chain like normal, and that's kind of locked it in there. And then I'm going to do 1 more chain going under that, so it's pulled that yarn all the way up and it's there waiting for me when I want it again later. So that's my chain 3, and that counts as my first double crochet. I still have 4 more front post double crochets to do to finish my shell, and those are going to be around the post of this stitch. So yarn over just like normal for a double crochet, but insert your hook from front to back and then out to the front again around the post of that double crochet, yarn or half double, yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, and that's a front post double crochet. Now I'm going to do 3 more of those. So yarn over, go around the post, pull through 2, pull through 2. Now at this point you may find it easier, and I do, to fold your work like this so that you're just working around that post without having to twist or think about it. And that is 5 double crochet for our first shell. One of them is the chain 3. Now when I go back to work the rest of the stitches, you can see how the shell sort of twists a little bit, right? And that's what we're going for. We're working it straight up and down on the post of the stitch, and then it twists back up to be straight, okay? We're going to skip 2 stitches, and we're going to do another shell around the post of the next stitch. So that's why it's a 3-stitch repeat. You do skip 2 and then shell, basically, is your repeat. So the shell, the full shell, when we're not at the beginning of the row, is just 5 front post double crochets around the post of this stitch. So I'm doing 5, that was 3, 4, and 5. Okay, just like we did before, we're going to skip 2 more stitches, and then on the next one, do 5 double crochet around this stitch. So that's 1. Notice how I fold the work. It just makes it faster to make the front post double crochets. But if I wasn't folding the work, it would be yarn over, go around like this. But see, I like to fold it like this so that it's just right there. So that's 2, 3, 4, 5. And now you can see we're forming this sort of wavy line of the slightly twisted shells, and I'm going to do that all the way around and come back to you at the end. Okay, I've come to the end. I have just 2 stitches left after my last shell, so I'm done with my round, and I'm just going to join in the top of that chain 3 that counted as a stitch. So right here in that 3rd chain, I'm going to join with a slip stitch. Okay, now if I want to change colors, instead of joining with a slip stitch in this color, so let me undo that, I'm going to just drop the color I'm using, pick up the next color, which remember I carried up, right? I'm going to stick my hook in and slip stitch with the new color, and it will be a little floppy. That's okay, it'll tighten up as you carry the new color up and do some more stitches. Okay, so that is the first round. It was pretty much just straight shells, right? Now we're going to do the same thing, and you would think normally, you know, we'll stack them one on top of the other, but instead we're going to work around the very first stitch of each shell. And what that's going to do is we're going to put all our stitches here and then pull it like this to get across to the next shell, and it's going to make the shells curve up into these tiny little cups that just hold air and warmth and everything like that. So I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's start with, we did our slip stitch, we turned, and we're going to do a chain 3, remember, to start our round. And I'm carrying this yarn up again in that starting chain by just draping it over my hook and working the chain around it. Okay, now I'm going to toss that to the back and ignore it for a while, and I'm going to work around this first stitch here. So yarn over, and because I already have the chain 3, I'm just going to do 4 double crochets around this post here. So I go from front to back and then out to the front again around this post, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And I do that a total of 4 times on this one because it's the first one. One more. So there's my 4 front post double crochets and my chain 3. And now watch what happens when I go on to the next shell. On the next shell, I'm going to do the same thing. See how it's already sort of twisted like that? I'm going to do the same thing going into the first stitch, and watch how that just pulls this one around. Okay, hang on, I'll show you. Do you see how that brings this end of that purple shell around and it's making sort of a cup? That's what we're trying to get, is those shells to really pop out like that and form sort of a cup as they layer back and forth over each other. And the last row will always feel fairly straight because it's not until you work into it that it starts to twist around like that. On the other side, we'll be working into this stitch first, so it will twist around like this and form a little cup that way. And that's the look that we're going for. So let's finish our 5 front post double crochets around this stitch. There's 3. Yarn over, insert hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, pull through 2, pull through 2. There's 4. And there is my 5th one. And I'm going to keep doing that. There's no chains in between or anything like that. I'm just going to keep doing this on every single one of these shells all the way around. And I'll come back to you at the end of the round. Okay, I've finished my last shell around the first double crochet of this one, and I'm back to the beginning of my round, and I'm going to join. And again, if I want to change colors, I'm going to drop this one and join with my next color. And then I can turn and do the next row. And you can see this kind of wavy poofiness that we're getting here, which is the same as what we've got here from these shells. Now, what if you want to do this in rows instead of rounds? Well, you can do pretty much the same thing. Let me back it out to where I ended this here. I would just say that you should have an edge stitch. You should have a stitch outside of the shell, because when you turn, the first stitch you're going to work into is this one. And that's going to be really awkward if that is the first stitch of the row. You can do it, it's just going to be a little awkward. So I think what I said even for the gauge swatches, but also just anytime you want to work this in the row, is I would skip 1 stitch and put a half double crochet next to the shells to give you an edge stitch. So even at the beginning here, I would make a couple extra stitches, skip 1 stitch, and then put a half double crochet at the end, and do the same thing here. So now you'll have a multiple of 3 plus 2 stitches. And then once you've done that edge stitch, you just maintain your edge stitch as you go. So here I might do a chain 1 and a half double crochet into that edge stitch, and you could have, 5 edge stitches if you wanted, whatever you want on the outside of it. And then that brings you back to the repeating shell pattern, where we're still doing the same thing. It's just, pretend that was the beginning of the round. Now we don't have to do the chain 3. Now we can just do all 5 front post double crochets right around the very first shell. So if you want to do it in the row, It's the same pattern, you just need a stitch on the edge to give you some stability and to square off your edges. Let me do a couple and then I'll show you what that looks like. So there you can see the edge stitch. And suppose I was to end the row here, and I'll stick an edge stitch right here. Okay, so suppose this was my row. Now I can chain one and turn and do my edge stitch and then do my shells 5 and then work whatever, you know, edge stitch or stitches I have decided on, which in this case I think I said half double crochets on each row to give me the height that I want. And you can see, oh, just one. You can see how that's starting to form that repeating pattern of the shells back and forth. It's the same thing, just has an edge stitch for the stability. And that's how you work the 3-dimensional shell stitch in the Mardava Cowl and Hat patterns. If you enjoyed this video, please give me a thumbs up, share it with your friends, or leave me a comment. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel for more great videos. Thanks for watching!